All right, welcome everyone to our Monday call. I don't know exactly what to call it anymore. It just is all the things that come up, right? And this week, Amanda reached out to me for this class and she said, I wonder if you do something like from chaos to calm. And I was like, okay, let me see what comes up for that. And so all last week, I had download after download. I think some of you saw some of the things that I was sharing in the WhatsApp group
Mhm.
about it. So we'll expound on those little snippets today. Um, I'm going to say this on the recording so that it's available for everyone since since Alejandra and Natalie aren't here. Um, The live calls, I totally understand that when we go for like an hour to an hour and a half, it blows people's brains up and it's really meant to. And when I'm speaking in these calls and teaching these classes, I don't really have a desire for what I'm saying to go through your thinking mind. My desire is that it goes through the quantum field and energetically hits you more like a transmission so that when you're receiving it, it's more like an energetic facilitation. Oh, there's Natalie. And not so much as um, it's not like a class that you're gonna like hear me talking one time and your brain is gonna go, oh, I can figure that out and know what she's saying. Even I have to go back and listen to the replays like two or three times. I do listen to them on two times speed, but honestly, I get something out of listening to the replays too. So, if you can't stay on the full call, that's okay. If you are feeling uncomfortable and you need to move your body or you need to get up and get a drink of water, please feel free to do so. I know I see some of you energetically shifting when we're on the calls. Like I know David has talked about like yawning. I even have had to like burp sometimes. Like your body's going to respond because this is such a I'm meaning for it. My intention is for it to be a huge energetic delivery. So I really want it to get into your energetic body, your physical body, and yes, your thinking mind. But at the same time, if your thinking mind can't figure it out, it's really because I am trying to create new neurological pathways for you. So think of it also as like energetic plasticity that when if you hear it and your brain is trying to figure it out, just let go. It'll probably come in easier and then it will be like a download for you where it could be 2 days from now, it could be a week from now and it's going to go, "Oh my god, I really now just embodied everything that was in that class." So, again, I invite you to listen to the replays as often as possible. I will try to get those all up onto that YouTube channel this week. Um, pause them if you want to. I also send you the copies of the manuals when I'm after a class, so you can go through them with the replay too. I can start sending those possibly before the class as well. So some of you might like to go through them while we're in class. That's a possibility. If you want that, let me know. But there's more in the manuals too when you receive them than we actually have a chance to get through in the classes. So, in the future, what I'll probably do is I'll probably go back through the manuals and then do verbal um, transmissions of those as well, and then send those out and make those available for you all too. So, those are just some things like housekeeping that I wanted to share with you all before we started today. So let's get into from chaos to calm. So when you think about chaos, we think about it as a state of disorder or unpredictability, especially in complex systems where small changes can lead to vastly different outcomes. So, in lived experience, chaos often feels like confusion, restlessness, emotional noise, or a sense that too many things are moving at once. And I don't know about all of you, but if there's chaos, I have I'm in the process of learning how to change my nervous system so that I can have calm in the chaos and I can tell my nervous system and my brain, my body that, hey, just breathe. Everything's going to be okay. I just got Amanda's most recent newsletter or Substack where she was talking about all these tools like grounding and hydrating and taking your vitamins and really listening to your body in those moments of chaos, because I think that's where a lot of stress comes from, where we create disease in the body, which to me, dis-ease is just dis-ease. So it's when we're out of ease. And so if we can learn to have ease in our bodies and know that everything is going to be okay in those moments of chaos, we can really create something far greater. So chaos is not inertly the problem, or it's not ever really a problem. In fact, we'll get into this a little bit, but chaos is actually required to create and manifest. When we're in the chaos too, it's usually where we ourselves, like our higher selves or the universe, is trying to tell us, hey, McFly, like something's going on here that you need to listen to, or you're in the middle of a big change. And the chaos is just like the storm before the calm kind of thing. So what you're often experiencing as chaos is unintegrated possibility re-entering awareness. Okay? So chaos is almost like where you're aware of the infinite possibilities, but it's where our brains and our nervous systems haven't yet quite figured out how to compute what's there in the field and available for us. So, when familiar structures loosen, like our identity, which is something that we've been working on since November, you guys, for like the past almost 3 months. Can you believe it? Timelines, which is also something that we've been talking about. Expectations, right? We've talked about expectations and roles. So the system briefly loses all of its reference points, and then the mind calls this chaos because it no longer knows how to predict what's next. The nervous system may respond with urgency, bracing, or a need to figure it out. Or we get really upset and we lose our ever loving flippin' minds for a minute. So, this is not about calming that response away. Like, I don't want you to go into the wrongness of yourself if the chaos is really disruptive for you and you start to choose or behave or act in a way that's not quite your normal. It's really about removing the pressure to perform inside that chaos. So, if you can take a couple deep breaths right now and lower all your walls and barriers and experience the feeling in the body when you let go of performance when there's chaos. So, in this work, in all these calls that we're doing, like we just talked about, you do not need to understand everything or anything. And you do not need to make anything happen. And you do not need to do this correctly. Okay? Trying to understand too quickly collapses access. So if you can think about a time that was really chaotic and there was a lot of chaos, what if you were to just hold yourself, hold space, be calm, be comfortable in that uncomfortability, and tell your nervous system in your mind, hey, everything's going to be okay. And when there's chaos, when you're trying to make something happen and it introduces force, then what happens? For me, in my experience, it usually makes it worse before it makes it better. So if I remove the force, if I remove the performance, if I remove myself almost, and I just get steady and calm and relaxed with it, it usually balances out quicker. So when we take out the effort, then there can be orientation. And effort isn't wrong, but is it always necessary? Efforting can tight attention. Tight attention narrows perception. Narrow perception reduces available pathways. So, in simple terms, efforting collapses chaos. So, when you can, again, remove yourself. And I'm not talking about like maybe you can't remove yourself physically or you still have responsibility in an area or something like that, but just remove anything that you think that you need to do to try to control it. Access expands when effort drops, not because you stop caring, but because you stop forcing outcomes before coherence has time to form. So, again, access expands when effort drops, not because you stop caring, but because you stop forcing outcomes before coherence has time to form. So, like for me right now, I have an individual in my life that I'd really like to have a conversation with about how she's been behaving and acting in our relationship. And I totally get that now is not the time because there's a lot of chaos energy right now. And so I'm going to remove myself and the effort and I'm going to get calm and steady. And then when the time comes, it will show itself to me. It will have way more ease. Okay. So oftentimes clarity will arrive after you stop pushing for it. Go take a nap. I know Esther Hicks says that all the time. Like if you're off your high flying disc and you feel like you're out of the vortex, she always says, "Go take a nap. Go back to bed." Orientation over certainty. Certainty feels safe, but it's often premature. So I know for myself, I have been love bombed before. Has anyone ever been love bombed? I've totally been love bombed. And in those situations, when someone is very much seeming like a certainty or something really feels like it's certain, step back a minute and start asking more questions. Okay? Because it's probably premature. So, orientation is different. Orientation means staying present, aware, and responsive without requiring immediate answers. Which I don't know about all of you. Natalie says, yes, this happened to me yesterday. I'm like, who do you think you are to love bomb me? Right? No love bombing, please. Let's just take our time and have a little bit of ease and flow with all of this. Um, so orientation means staying present, aware, and responsive without requiring immediate answers. Okay, but I know for myself, sometimes when I'm in the middle of a chaos situation, I want answers now and I want it to change right now. I don't want to wait. But orientation allows timing to reveal itself, relevance to sort naturally, false urgency to dissolve. So here, certainty is not the goal, coherence is. And that's what we've been talking about for the last few weeks, too, or at least since we really got started, about coherence with our nervous systems, coherence between our mental mind, thinking minds, and our bodies. Okay. So when possibility re enters awareness, chaos is often misunderstood as a sign that something has gone wrong. In personal lives, relationship, creative processes, and large cultural systems, chaos is frequently treated as a failure state, something to correct, escape, or resolve as quickly as possible. In this work right now, we're going to approach chaos a little differently. Chaos is not required for transformation. So I'm not saying that chaos is required. I'm saying that it can create transformation. But systems are fully capable of reorganizing smoothly when sufficient trust, capacity, and orientation are present. However, chaos is often revealed when familiar structures loosen and existing organized patterns lose dominance. So chaos is not the goal, it's the signal. When effort drops, when control relaxes, and when old narratives lose their authority, the system temporarily loses its primary reference point. What emerges in that moment is commonly labeled as chaos. Not because something is broken, but because multiple possibilities are now visible at once. And a lot of times in those moments, it's because the collective consciousness is not aligning and agreeing with what was. Somebody started to ask more questions, which brought in then an algorithm interrupt that said, okay, not if not this, then what? And it's also sometimes when you have an awareness that what you've been doing hasn't been working. And so you want something to change. And before it can change, there's a lot of chaos that can occur. So, again, we talked about it earlier, but chaos is best understood as unintegrated possibility. Chaos as a transitional state. In complex systems like biology, psychology, social, or quantum, chaos does not indicate breakdown. It marks a transitional state between organized principles. Chaos arises when a system contains more available states than it can currently integrate. So if there's something going on in your life that you don't like, maybe ask what else. That's the question from Access Consciousness. It's like, what else is possible here? Which can create a lot of chaos when you ask that question. So, what feels like disorder is not randomness, it is excess possibility without a governing frame. So, in a lived experience, this may present as multiple impulses arising simultaneously, emotional variability without a clear cause, loss of narrative certainty, difficulty prioritizing or deciding. So it's that state also where we might feel like panic or upset or, like I said, dis-ease. So this does not mean that the system is malfunctioning. It means previous constraints have loosened, allowing previously suppressed or unavailable options to surface. So, why chaos appears when effort drops? Effort often functions as a stabilizing mechanism. It provides predictability, structure, continuity of identity, and a sense of control. For many systems, effort has served as a substitute for trust. When effort drops through healing or insight, exhaustion, or conscious choice, the scaffolding that held the system together may relax before a deeper form of trust has been embodied. This creates a timing gap. So chaos appears when effort drops faster than trust stabilizes. Trust here is not optimism or belief. It is the system's confidence that it can remain intact without constant control. So, when that confidence is not yet present, openness is experienced as instability. Chaos is not something you enter intentionally. It arises naturally when control is no longer performing its usual role. So it's not regression and it's not failure and it's not a mistake. It's the system recalibrating without its usual scripts. So when something comes up that's really disruptive and chaotic, again, it's like learning how to tell our brains and our bodies that we're really okay. It's just change. It's just there's more possibility there then that's never really been acknowledged before. So, to work skillfully with chaos, several distinctions must be maintained. Chaos does not equal failure. Chaos does not indicate loss of progress. It often appears precisely because a previous mode of functioning is no longer viable. Chaos does not equal wrongness. Nothing has gone off track, and the system is responding accurately to changed conditions. Chaos does not equal dysfunction or by default. While chaos can activate the nervous system, its presence does not automatically imply pathology. A system can be activated and still reorganize and still be reorganizing appropriately. Pathology arises not from chaos itself, but from misinterpreting chaos as danger. Okay. I wanted to check something really quick here too, because I know in the um, chat, I had said something and I told Natalie that I would go over it today while we were in class. Does anyone have any questions so far? Is everybody doing okay? Okay. So when you, so another, I had a quote in the chat that I said, when you come to conclusion or expectation, or when you have too much energy towards one outcome, you collapse infinite possibilities. So it's sort of like what I was talking about in the um, post that I put in the chat on Friday. I called it urgency, but when we have when we come to conclusion or expectation and we have too much energy toward one outcome, you collapse what you can receive as other possibilities. Your brain goes to that's the answer and then that is it. There's nothing else available after that. So when you speak in very much like generalities, or when you talk in, when you stay in your story, um, you collapse anything else that might be available for you to be able to see it. Our brains are not meant, what do I want to say? Our brains form patterns of thinking, and they only really think from the past. And so when you're trying to manifest, which is what we've been talking about, in order to see the other possibilities that are available, you literally have to rewire your brain. And it's not easy. And so when you come to conclusion and when you have expectations, you're not opened to any other possibility. And when you speak in very finite terms, like, you don't allow then either for the chaos to show you what could be possible. And then in the chaos, you would go to like stress or upset or anger or shame and blame or hate, regret, guilt. You go to like all these places that are not wrong, but they also don't open up availability for you to be aware of anything else that's possible. And I am very much guilty of that, and I'm working on, like right now I'm working on healing my relationship with my mom and dad, because I definitely went to conclusion with them. And I didn't allow them to change who they are in my own brain, which kept them then where they're at. And in a way, even though they have changed, didn't fully allow them to change because I was keeping them there with a conclusion and an expectation in the field. So that's why, like, when you change, when you're willing to change, everything else will change. Because that possibility then ripples out. And let's say something like, my dad used to upset me so much, and when I'd get in the vicinity of him or around him, my nervous system would start to react. I wouldn't feel good. It would exhaust me. I hated being around him. So I can be around him now without my nervous system collapsing and going buzzing and going insane, because I'm telling my brain, he's not going to hurt you. You're safe. You're okay. because my brain was constantly functioning from when I was a kid and from the past. But I'm safe now, and I'm a sovereign being, and I get to choose how I feel and how I react and what I think about him or any situation or any person. It also doesn't mean, um, when you're aware of someone and what they're choosing and what they're doing, it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily stay around them or choose to be around them. But instead of making them wrong, or instead of shaming and blaming them for doing something to you, you become more neutral. I promise I'm not specifically talking to you. I love you. This has really helped me see a lot of my own patterns. And really what I want this to be for you is an invitation for a pattern interrupt. To me, this is the only way for me to choose wealth as well for myself. Because I have to change my patterns, my identity, and we've been talking about that too. Like, I have to change my nervous system and how I think, not just how I feel about things either, but it's really about acknowledging and recognizing thought patterns that I have that are like fucked up and are not gonna, they're gonna keep me where I'm at. They're gonna keep me right here because this is what my brain and my nervous system think is safe, even though it's a mess. Like, I don't like where I'm at with some things in my life. But if I don't change my pattern of thinking about many different things, not just finances, I'm never going to change and be able to be a container to hold as much wealth as I would like to receive or create or whatever. Like right now, I have patterns in my life that don't allow me to be the online influencer and creator and like the digital product business that I really want to be, because I'm stuck in a pattern. And I'm able to recognize it now and see it, and I'm moving out of it. But it created me acknowledging that created a lot of fucking chaos in my life. And so I had to hold myself steady and say, okay, this chaos is not, this is just you. Sometimes I call it walking through a birth canal. Like I'm birthing a new version of myself, and my brain and my nervous system do not want me to do that. It's glitching out the programming because the programming was written. It's like code that was written, and I'm breaking it, and it's seeing that as not safe. So, human systems rely heavily on narrative for stability. So, really think about your narrative. Like, I stopped recently talking to a lot of people because I realized how much I was stuck in my stupid freaking stories. I'm I was talking about like I'm a product of being a child of missionaries and how much I've had like all these relationship experiences and blah 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 blah. But it's, that's just a story. That's just the pattern. That's just the narrative. So stories provide coherence, identity, and continuity. When a dominant story about who you are, what matters, or how life works loses authority, the system temporarily lacks a reference point. And this leads to the central reframe, that is, chaos is what shows up when the system no longer knows which story to obey. So, this moment is often misread as disintegration or dysregulation. In reality, it is a narrative vacuum, a pause between organizing principles. So nothing is asking to be fixed, something is asking to be reorganized. So working with chaos instead of against it. Chaos does not require intervention, it requires orientation. Fighting chaos reintroduces force. Forcing resolution collapses possibility prematurely. So, allowing chaos without dramatization or urgency creates the conditions for self organization, natural prioritization, emergence of relevance, and coherent collapse into form. This is not passivity, it is restraint. You're holding the field then. The discipline is not collapsing the field too soon. When chaos is met with non-reactive presence, coherence emerges on its own. And that's the trick. It's like, don't be reactive. And not being reactive does not mean you're being a doormat. It does not mean that someone's going to win or someone else is right. It just means you're willing to have a nervous system that's so fucking steady, you can hold the fucking field. It's like being a superhuman, or being like a superhero. Think about when you watch like a superhero movie and there's all this chaos going around. They're not like getting super dramaed. They're going, okay, what do we, they're asking a lot of questions. Like, what do we need to choose to fix this or change this? And that's why asking questions is such a huge tool. Because if you start to go into upset or you go into reaction, if you ask questions, then you'll get an awareness of what the next aligned action will be, and it will feel supportive to your brain and your nervous system. Because when you're asking questions, then your brain and your nervous system goes, oh, this person isn't just lying down and letting something kill them, because that's what it starts to feel like when there's like that kind of chaotic thing going on. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to die and I need to do something to stop it. But if you remove yourself energetically and start asking questions, then your brain and your nervous system can relax a little bit, because it goes, oh, they are actually looking for how to resolve it. They're not just being a doormat. So chaos is not the enemy of calm. It is often the threshold where control gives way to coherence. When chaos is recognized as unintegrated possibility rather than failure, the system no longer needs to defend against itself. From this place, calm does not need to be manufactured. It emerges naturally. Okay. All right. Everybody doing okay? Yes. Do you have a question, Amanda?
Not necessarily a question, but I've been mulling around in my brain this, I don't know, to the correct terminology, analogy, or metaphor. May I share?
Yes. Yeah.
Might help people too. as a tangible, so I've studied a lot of feng shui and space clearing. And I've also been watching, well, just last night, I forget what it's called, but this woman goes into homes that need like remediation, and some of her clients are hoarders. So I'm thinking about two different things here. So when I go into a space, client space that's asking for help in flow of their environment,
Mm-hmm.
what happens is like the chaos before the calm, like to rearrange, like to create a new possibility for them, their environment of what's their norm, their comfort of placement needs to be disrupted. So I keep
Yeah.
imagining like taking everything off the walls, and like when I go in and live in a new place, like it's chaotic before I can settle in. It's like disrupt the current environment, and then it opens up this field of possibility. It unsticks the energy, and then you
Mm-hmm.
ask where things want to go, using, in this case, the principles of feng shui placement. And there's like a bedrock foundation guidance system for that. And then the example with the hoarders, um, granted, that's on a whole other level of mental health slash illness. Um, their chaos somehow feels like calm to them. And then when somebody comes in to try to help them, oftentimes it's required that a psychologist is there because they're so rooted in their chaos that they can't see how to bring it back to calm. And there's a lot of resistance there.
Yeah.
Like they don't even know how to exist in a clean, calm environment. I'm
Yeah.
not sure where I was going with that, but there's something there about locking into chaos too.
Well, that's the identity piece. So when you're identified with chaos all the time, which through EMDR, I started to learn that like my normal nervous system baseline is super dysregulated and chaotic. And so if I don't have chaos, I actually, not so much anymore, but I used to go out and try to create it because being relaxed and calm and chill in my life never felt like normal. That felt like it was um, something to fight against. And so when things were really good in my life, I would create chaos because that's where my normal exists. My normal exists in states of dysregulation all the time. So I've had to learn, and that's why energy work for me, more than any other therapy, has helped me regulate my nervous system and also other like these kinds of facilitation where I can speak in a way that glitches out my thinking mind. Because if I'm talking to a therapist and I'm talking in a way that doesn't glitch out my thinking mind, it just keeps me in that holding pattern then. And I'm sort of like then legitimate legitimizing where I'm at. Like I used to feel like a victim all the time. That's why people choose victim all the time. Because that's their normal holding pattern. That's where their chaos lives. That's why people have so much drama in their lives. That's where their nervous system feels most comfortable. That's why people have stuff and like you said, like that, like the hoarders, their nervous system feels more comfortable in that chaos that they can actually tangibly see. They were probably abused or neglected or have maybe traumatic brain injuries or some sort of trauma occurred, and their trauma response and their normal then pattern is to live with that much stuff around them. Yeah. So I want to bring us into this word is hard for me to say. um Probabilistic field. So that's where the future is still alive. So before anything becomes an outcome, it exists in probability. So if you can be comfortable again, and that's not a, that uncertainty is not a chaotic necessarily uncertainty all the time, although our nervous systems can misidentify and our brains can misinterpret uncertainty as chaos. But it's really just where the probability of something exists. And it doesn't require a plan. It's not a goal necessarily, and not as a decision wanting to be made. So we've talked about it when it comes to manifestation in the past. I've told you I've experienced where me doing and practicing forms of manifestation that other people have taught doesn't necessarily work for me, because when I'm trying to visualize something or when I'm trying to feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled before it actualizes, that starts to create more chaos for me. And so if I can just say, oh, there's an infinite probability and possibility out there, I don't have to hold the specifics of the outcome. And that's easier for me than saying, I want this and this and this and this, and this is what I'm going to manifest. To me, it's better if I just say, I desire to create something greater, and I know kind of sort of what I want it to look like and feel like. And so I can design it around that as a possibility. Like that's the little bit of the flame, like with the lighter that sparks it. But if I hold on to the specifics of it too tightly, the expectation of the outcome too tightly, it's like the field has to, it's harder almost for me to manifest it, because the field has to, it takes more time. It like creates more of a gap. Instead, if I go, this is what I want, this is what I will listen to or choose or do or take the aligned action to get there, like universe show me. Then I let the universe lead and I let the energy lead or the quantum field lead, and then it shortens the gap. Of course, it's going to happen. We'll talk about this more next week because I'm moving into the energy of like a rich person nervous system versus a healer and not a wealthy nervous system. And one of the things that came for me when I was working on the class for next week is that God, what am I going to say? Something just jumped in and shifted that. That was interesting. So there's an energy there around all of that. Cool. All right, I'm going to go back to this and then that will come to me in a minute. So again, before anything becomes an outcome, it exists as a probability, not as a plan, not as a goal, and not as a decision wanting to be made, but as a field of potential states. Some closer, some further, some viable only under certain conditions. This is not abstract physics. This is a lived experience. You know this field as the sense that something is forming, The pull toward more than one direction at once, the feeling of possibility without clarity, and the moment before knowing. The probabilistic field is the future before it collapses into form. So, most people believe manifestation happens at the level of intention, and I'm saying that it doesn't. It happens at the level of tolerance for openness and coherence. So, reality does not respond to what you want, it responds to how much uncertainty you can hold without forcing resolution. I had to make a note here. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. The probabilistic field remains available only as long as it is not prematurely collapsed. And again, we collapse it by how intense our expectation and desire and conclusion is of the outcome. So try not to ever go into conclusion. And if you're going into conclusion and you can catch yourself, ask more questions. Access Consciousness gave me some really good questions. I wrote that book, Ask, Don't Force, but one of the questions that I got from Access Consciousness was, what's right about this I'm not getting? What's right about this chaos that I'm not getting? So let's talk about suppression for a moment. Suppression is not denial. Suppression is premature closure. It happens when the system says, I need to decide now. I can't sit in this. I need clarity before I move. This uncertainty is uncomfortable. I need to end it now. The mind often frames this as responsibility or maturity. The nervous system frames this as safety, but the cost is high. Suppressing the probabilistic field is closing the future to feel safe. When you collapse too early, you don't choose wrong, you choose before coherence has time to form. So the nervous system is not oriented toward possibility. Neither is our brains. Our brains and nervous system function from the past. Only what it's already learned and been told and seen and traumatized by. Prediction creates safety, uncertainty removes the map. So, when multiple possibilities are present at once, the system experiences openness as threat, ambiguity as danger, waiting as instability. To restore safety, the system collapses the field. You make fast decisions when that happens. You force clarity and you choose any answer over no answer. This is not failure, it's survival intelligence doing what it was designed to do. But survival intelligence is not the same as creative or manifestation intelligence. Does anyone want to take a break? We're at the top of the hour. Yep, okay. Let's take a 5-minute break. Then we can come back.
Of it.
All right. And now we're back. And Natalie's here. Thank you, Natalie. Okay. So how the field gets collapsed too soon. And David's here too. Hi, David. Thank you. You can see suppression clearly in everyday behavior. And I've started to raise and ask myself to raise my own level of awareness so that I can acknowledge when I'm collapsing the field. Because if you can acknowledge something, then you can actually look at it without fear or judgment or a point of view and change it. And that's how you get something to have no charge. So when something has no charge to it, when it doesn't have an energetic charge, then the brain and the nervous system can feel safe, safe enough to change it. And change then happens far easier and greater. Okay? So you can see suppression clearly in everyday behavior when you are deciding too soon. So choosing a direction or an answer simply to end uncertainty, and not because it's coherent, but because you need something to happen now. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't situations, of course, when that has to happen. But again, go into the question: does anything need to occur right now? Can I wait? Is the time actually now? When we force clarity, we collapse the field. So when we're overthinking, analyzing, or meaning making to avoid staying open. And this is what's going on with me in a relationship that I'm having with a girlfriend. It's like coming to conclusion and meaning making and to avoid staying open. Now, that's also a trauma response. So it's your nervous system and your brain not allowing you. It's like the brain doesn't like for there to be a void. But the thing is that the universe and manifestation, that's where it likes to fill in shit. So if there is no void, and I don't mean shit, I mean the good stuff that you're asking for. But if you don't create the void, the universe, it doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen quickly because there's nowhere to put it. But we get uncomfortable when there's a void. And we want to fill it then. Our nervous system and our brain goes, there's a big gap. And it's like, well, you don't have to fall in the gap. You don't have to, it's not a plunge down. Just let it be. But it's like that black blank space. It's the field. But our nervous systems are and our brains are meant to keep us safe, and so we overthink, we overanalyze, we try to make meaning to something, we go to conclusion, we go to making something, we have expectations then, but your expectations typically come again from your brain and your nervous system trying to keep you safe, and most of the time they're really fucked up. We collapse the field when we're choosing to stop discomfort. So, picking an option that reduces sensation rather than expands alignment. Each of these closes the future, not because it's wrong, but because the system wants relief. But relief is not always coherent. So, what happens when you don't suppress the field? When the probabilistic field is allowed to remain open, something counterintuitive occurs. So, this is about also getting out of control and getting out of the way. So, at first, what can happen is sensations are increased, which also can be very scary to the nervous system and the brain. Impulses multiply. Emotional noise may rise. Identity feels less solid, but that's a good thing. It's like go to the mirror and ask for 5 minutes every day, who am I? 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 This is not chaos because something is breaking. It's a possibility because something is no longer constrained. If you don't rush to resolve this, the field begins to self-organize. That void is created. It's like you emptied out a basket, or like Amanda said, like when you go to empty something out, it gets a little bit more chaotic before the organization can occur. Not all possibilities remain equal. Some fade and some lose their charge. One or two begin to feel obvious, not urgent, obvious. This is coherence emerging. So instead of creating a future that I put all the details into, I'm creating myself to be someone who can be coherent and balanced when those possibilities are emerging. Because to me, it makes sense that that's going to bring in more, probably more than I could have even imagined for myself, or greater than I could have even imagined for myself, than trying to actualize or manifest specific things. So, like, I'm aware that I have a huge desire to travel, and I'm open to all the possibilities. I don't have a specific place that I have to go to. I'm not dialing down all of the details. I'm just saying, where? I wonder where. Natalie says, "Oh, this is happening for me now." That's awesome. So, staying open without collapsing. So, right now, I want you to take a minute, and I don't want you to look for clarity, and I don't want you to try to solve anything. I want you to let the future stay open. The more uncertainty, the better. Yes, Natalie. So notice the impulses that you have and where the impulses are in your life to decide, to plan, and to reach for an answer. And right now, just for this moment, I don't want you to act on them. I just want you to notice them. Notice the urge to resolve discomfort, the desire to land somewhere. Can you stay present without resolving? Nothing is being demanded of you. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are not stuck. You are inside the field where futures are still possible. The most aligned actions do not come from effort. They come from timing. Timing cannot be forced. It cannot be recognized, or it can only be recognized. The probabilistic field is not a problem to overcome. It is the most creative state you will ever inhabit. When you stop collapsing it early, the future does not disappear. It gets smarter. The future does not need to be decided. It needs to be allowed to organize. When you remain present without forcing closure, reality chooses with you. And the choice feels inevitable, not heavy. This is not passivity, it's mastery. Okay, I think we have time for desire versus lack. So, and part of that last, I've also been doing, like, I've always been curious about people who are really, really good at something. Like, they're the master, because I have a master energy master class coming up at the end of the month. And If you look at those people that are really good at something, they're masters of something, and you stand in their field and you experience their nervous system, in those moments of their mastery, their nervous system is on point. Like it is so balanced and so aligned and so like they know that they're supposed to be there. They know that what they have to do, but they had to practice to get there. Like the Winter Olympics is coming up, and like I watch my son in sports, and I've been watching football recently with some friends for something to do. It's not my normal, but it's kind of fun. But if you watch those people that are professionals at what they're like the masters at what they do, they have to keep themselves in balance. And when they don't, you can really see and notice when things start to go south. So start observing yourself in your life and noticing, when do you start to go south? And then acknowledge it like, oh, that thing is coming up. And I need to acknowledge I start to go south when that starts to happen. It's a pattern. So, how do you, again, sort of like remove yourself enough to be observing like a 30,000-foot view instead of in the feeling of the chaos of it? Like, what if chaos didn't have any feelings? What if there's no emotion about it? And I know that that's really hard sometimes. But what if staying neutral isn't you being a doormat, but it's you opening up to greater possibilities and not aligning and agreeing with what's right or what's wrong? Okay. So I want to talk about reframing importance. There is a foundational misunderstanding in manifestation work that quietly undermines almost everything people try to create. The problem is not desire. The problem is not wanting. The problem is not caring deeply. The problem is lack masquerading as importance. So most teachings confuse these states, and in doing so, they teach people to suppress desire instead of cleaning the distortion underneath it. So, importance is not the problem. Importance has been framed as dangerous, as something that creates resistance, collapse, or punishment from reality. That framing is incomplete. Importance itself does not distort reality. Importance is a signal. So, what importance signals is not danger, it signals lack. When something feels charged, heavy, urgent, or high stakes, it's not because desire is wrong, it's because desire has become entangled with a story of not having, not being, or not enough. Or it could be that importance is entangled with a story of that it's not, something is not safe. Your nervous system is responding. So importance can then be desire under pressure. Like, would you actually desire that thing if it weren't for the chaos or whatever's going on? So if you can create a wanting or a desire, but that's neutral, like, oh, it's like being in that space of course it's going to happen. When you're in that space of course it's going to happen, there's a knowing there and there's still a desire or a wanting energy, but you're not in lack. Your nervous system regulates because it knows it's going to happen. The timing of it may be a little bit different than what you think it should be. And that's where you have to keep your nervous system regulated to know that time is just, it doesn't really exist. So, lack is something, it's the belief that something essential is missing. So, if the energy of desire or wanting is in that energy of something essential is missing, then you know that it's lack. It's like a feeling of you're incomplete without an outcome. And that's where we go to importance. Like when we put importance on an outcome, then we're feeling like something's going to be incomplete if we don't have that outcome. Your safety, your worth, or your future depends on a resolution. It's so important. Okay. You can want something deeply without believing you are deficient without it. You can desire without gripping. You can reach without collapsing. So you can still want something and not have an energy of lack there. You can still have a desire, but then check in with yourself. Is this me wanting that thing because of the level of importance that I think it's going to keep me safe, or it's going to fix everything, or, ask questions. Desire becomes distorted when it is tied to identity repair. So when desire carries the hidden message of this will fix me, this proves something, I can relax once this happens, the field tightens. Not because desire is bad, but because too much energy is being routed into a single outcome. Okay, so when energy spikes around one outcome, the system becomes rigid. Rigid systems lose flexibility. Flexibility is what allows timing, orchestration, and coherence. The gap widens not as a punishment, but as a pressure regulation. Okay. So, desire without attachment. I wanted to find a word that meant that, and the closest thing that I could come to is an early Buddhist word called Chandra or Chandra, Chanda, Chanda, Chanda. And Chanda means desire without clinging, interest without grasping, movement without self referential lack. Chanda is not passive. It is not detached. It is not indifferent. It is desire without collapse. It's desire that does not need to arrive to justify itself. Desire that does not tighten the future around one narrow door. Desire without lack feels energized but not urgent. Desire without lack feels clear without being rigid. It feels alive without being needy. And it feels compelling without being heavy. It does not say, this must happen. It says, this is alive for me. And that difference is everything. When desire is clean, the probabilistic field says, or probabilistic, sorry, I That word is so hard for me to say. Okay. The probabilistic field opens. Options remain flexible. Timing stays intelligent. Reality does not resist this kind of desire, it responds to it. And again, we're going to talk about that a little bit more next week when we talk about the wealth nervous system. Why letting go of importance isn't what you think. Letting go of importance does not mean letting go of what you want. It means letting go of the belief that your safety, identity, or worth is contingent on the outcome. So don't stop desire, drop the lie attached to it. When the lie dissolves, desire becomes precise instead of pressured. Reality does not punish desire, it regulates distortion. When desire is mixed with lack, the system slows things down, not to withhold, but to prevent collapse. When desire is clean, movement accelerates naturally, not forcing, not chasing, not proving. Desire does not need to be tamed, it needs to be freed from lack. When desire moves without attachment, the field stays open, timing stays intelligent, and manifestation becomes collaborative rather than effortful. This is not about wanting less, it's about wanting without collapse. Okay, we might have to finish the rest of this up next week. This might be a 2-week call because next is Eros without performance, and I really probably should go through that before we go through the nervous system part of it. But chaos is not a negative thing. Chaos is required, like Amanda was saying, like to create greater, usually. It's an algorithm interrupt. It's where we go, what happens when change is afoot. And then it's up to us to stay patient. But that part is really about understanding your own nervous system and how you function within life itself. If your nervous system is dysregulated and you don't have a nervous system of a wealthy individual or a master or someone who really wishes to create something else for your life, it probably isn't going to happen. You're going to stop yourself, your nervous system and your brain and the universe even is going to stop you before it will actualize. Because you have neurological pathways and you have the plasticity in your brain isn't set up to even choose. Like if the choice came up in front of you of what you could choose, you wouldn't choose it because your nervous system isn't regulated for that and it's not your identity. So like I was saying earlier, my desire right now is to create a new life for myself. And it's been difficult for me to choose what I know if I chose it would create it. So can you choose those aligned actions that don't align yet with where your nervous system is at? You have to like override that programming in your brain. John and I were talking a couple weeks ago about being lazy, and that's kind of how it shows up for me. I get lazy with stuff. When I know I need to change something, my brain goes to laziness. I get distracted because that's more comfortable. I feel like a baby with a pacifier.
Rebecca, how do you know? This is a very interesting concept, right? Because how do you know, like, if you really just sometimes that stopping is a like a really good thing, like versus like you can think that it's I'm working on that, like discerning between what actually is procrastination versus, oh, this nap now is going to open up creativity. And I've seen I've seen both. So I'm just in a state of curiosity about that.
Sure. Um,
You don't have to answer it now, but I just thought I would
yeah,
throw that out.
let me see what comes in. Hang on a
Okay.
sec. There's something there. So hang on. The energy is different. The charge that it has, like the procrastination, when you know that you need to relax and procrastinate because you need rest in order for to create the void, right? Because we talked about that earlier. So, procrastination and rest and relaxation can actually be that space that creates the void. If I were to go on vacation right now, I could probably come back and change everything. When I was in medical massage school, we talked about helping our clients stop an addiction. And one of the best ways to stop an addiction, like drinking, cigarettes, something like that, is to remove yourself from your current environment and go relax. Like go to a different country for 2 weeks or something where you don't have immediate access to all of your bad habits. But it's knowing the difference between I'm going to choose that as my aligned action, or I'm just procrastinating and not doing what I know I really need to do. I'm sitting on the couch watching too much, binge watching things, or I'm going deep into like a YouTube that is about business. But if I would just stop choosing, like, I'm done, I don't need to learn anymore right now, I need to take the actions to create that which I want to create. I need to create a schedule, I need to create some routine, which I've had before, but my brain and my nervous system are trying to keep me where I've been because that's been my normal, but I want to break out of that normal. And so seeing that new reality is really uncomfortable for me. It's sort of like I went to when I was with my ex-partner and we opened those bars. Like walking into that environment was such a chaos for me. It was so painful. It was disgusting. I hated it because I had to learn and it didn't make sense to me. I had Were you going to say something, Natalie?
No, no,
Okay.
no, no.
I
I'm
had to
just
learn something so far greater than I was in an environment that felt like a war zone. My body and my nervous system felt like I was dying, like something was trying to kill me. But it wasn't. It was just I needed to learn all of these new things. And the process of doing that and in that environment, it was so fast and so dynamic. I was just like overwhelmed with the sensation of it. And it's sort of what this process of me changing my habits, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about it too. It's like changing the habit of being yourself. And that's sort of what came to me when I was asking about, okay, well, if I desire to create a greater possibility with income for myself, to have more ease, to create a legacy for my son, to be able to travel and do some of those things and create the life that I actually have the sense of what I would like to desire or to create. I don't have like I said, I don't have that on a vision board for myself anymore. But in order to do those things, I really have to start honing in on changing my patterns, changing my behaviors, changing the breaking the habit of being myself. And so I wanted to look at like, okay, then what is the habit of being yourself? Like, what does that actually fucking mean?
Mm.
Because me sitting down and meditating about it every day is not creating that change. And so it's literally, I have to change my thinking patterns, and I know that I can. Science has proven that neuroplasticity is a thing. Your brain can change. No longer is it truth that our brains developed until we were like 7 and now they can't change anymore. That's been debunked. That's not true anymore. So you can change the way that anything affects you, even if you were traumatized by it in the past. It doesn't have to be the same story. It doesn't have to be the same feeling. It doesn't even have to be the same charge. You won't even notice it really anymore. But our brains don't want to let that go because we believe that if we keep hold of that stuff, then we'll be aware of it. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't be aware of it. Like, I will never choose to be with a narcissist again or somebody who abuses me that way, but I'll pick it up right away and I'll be like, no thanks, bye. But it doesn't have a charge on me anymore.
Mm.
So, I have to look at, for myself to change something, I have to understand, how does someone that has a mastery in something function then? How does their nervous system behave? How do their brains function? And those people that choose that, they do things that they do not want to do. And that's how also your brain and your nervous system keep you safe. They're like, your brain, right now, I'm in a pattern of, I don't want to do those things. I don't want to sit down on Mondays and create a fuck ton of content and do the video editing and all of it's like work. But if I were to start doing it and start making it my normal, I would have fun at it. And I've done it before and it's not really hard work. It's just that's not the pattern of my behavior from the past. And so my nervous system and my brain are going, oh my God, you're trying to change too much. And it's not too much. It's just a lie. It's a lie that I keep telling myself, oh, hold yourself here because that will be safe. But I've also started to recognize my friends and family around me that keep themselves in those holding patterns. Guess how much they're aging? Because they're not willing to change anymore. So they just stay the same and stay the same and stay the same and tell the same stories over and over and over and over again. And I'm very aware and I've stopped making them wrong. And I've started to go, okay, where the fuck have I had the same patterns over and over and over and over again? So ask yourself, if you want to meditate on anything, meditate on God, universe, source, my higher self, my everything. Please show me the fucking patterns. Please show me what I keep choosing that keeps me here, that keeps me staying in this same place. Please show me how to create it differently with ease. Please show me the aligned actions that I must choose. And some of it isn't easy. I can have ease with it. But again, that is a mindset then. That is me saying, I can choose this and I don't have to make it so uncomfortable. I can choose to have ease in that uncomfortability. Does that answer your question, Natalie?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was great. And I don't mean to be rude, but thank you so much. I have to go. I have
No,
to.
no, no, go. That's okay. Yeah, you're good. You're not rude.
Thank you. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
John, does that answer it for you too? Thanks for being here today, Natalie.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, like the biggest question was, hey, I I can pretend like I'm not needing something all day long, and it ends up actually becoming procrastination, right? But to flip that around and say the energy is different. Oh yeah, well, obviously. So yeah, that's helpful.
Okay, good. Good. Does anyone else have any other questions? Maybe what I'll do is, I know some of you have asked for these to be more, not always on a live, but as a recording. And if this is what comes up, I may record the part of this class that we didn't get to today, and then be able to next week go into the wealth one. I forgot to ask, did anyone fill out that form that I sent out? I can't even think of the name of it right now. That's so funny.
The identity bio.
Yes, the identity bio.
Totally dropped that request. Sorry, honey. I'll put
No,
it
it's
back on
fine.
my list.
I forgot about it, so we'll talk about it more next week.
That would have been interesting to do it when I didn't know who I was this weekend. I probably would have had different answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's something that you can revisit, I think, often and frequently. I mean, if we're willing for our identity to be in fluidity all the time, I think society and our family members and friends, they want to keep us in a box, right? They want to have some sort of container around us. And if you're willing to be uncontained and undefinable, that can feel not safe for people, but it can also allow you to be that plasticity, right? Like, what if not just your brains were willing to have that plasticity of change, but what if you in your own entirety were willing to have that plasticity and change, and then be the invitation for that for others too? Like, what if you were willing to be undefinable? Yeah. Okay. I love you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you, Amanda. Bye.